As you may remember from history class, slavery is what became Canada was abolished more than 200 years ago. So you may wonder why the Toronto City Council is being asked to take steps to eliminate modern slavery. Shae Invidiata founded an organization called Free Them, and she is among those who made presentations to the city's executive committee yesterday. And we have her in studio. Good morning. Good morning. So tell us what you mean by modern slavery in a Toronto context.
Yeah, it's a great question. Slavery as we know it, or as we would have learned through history textbooks, isn't quite what we're seeing today in Toronto, in Ontario, and in Canada. It comes in different forms within Canada, specifically Toronto here as well. The two most prevalent forms are sexual exploitation and forced labor. So what does that really look like? Where people are being exploited through strip clubs, massage parlors, escort services. You see a lot in the different nail salons, construction sites, more out in the Niagara region. There's more the agriculture with farming. And so what appears oftentimes to be a weird situation where we as citizens might walk by something and go, well, that's kind of bizarre, or I don't really understand what I'm looking at, and you just turn the other way and you don't think anything of it. A lot of times it's actually human trafficking, which is slavery, that's happening right before our eyes. And many people, it goes unnoticed or not understanding what they're looking at.
Okay, so then it sounds to me like the definition you're using for modern slavery is talking about people who are probably being underpaid, or also are also being forced into jobs that they don't want to do. That's
correct. And oftentimes they're not paid at all. So okay. I mean, even if they are paid very minimal, it's definitely exploitation. It's illegal in our country because you're making, $3 an hour, $4 an hour, which is totally not acceptable under Canadian legislation. So if they are receiving, it's extremely minimal, but oftentimes they're not receiving payment at all.
And what's your best guess as to how many people are in that circumstance?
Well, you know what? This is what we're discussing at Executive Committee yesterday. This is part of one of the recommendations that we put forward in the Human Trafficking Report, is that we are urging Toronto Executive Committee and Council that we need a proper data collection for the Municipal of Toronto. It'll be coincide and cohesive with the National Action Plan that the federal legislation has put into place, but that is part of what needs to happen in order for us to properly track it and properly identify. And so right now there are many numbers across the borders that it makes it hard for us to give you this morning a concrete answer. But it is shocking. I mean, it's in the hundreds of thousands of people that are...
Just in this area? Or across Canada?
Across Canada. Okay. I mean, Toronto specific, within southern Western Ontario, we have over 60% of human trafficking cases that go and make it before Canadian courts are right here in southern Western Ontario. And of course, Toronto and the GTA absorbs the majority of that.
Now, are they all immigrants, or are some of them Canadians who are being forced into this labor?
Yeah, it's a great question. Human trafficking, most people think it has to be international, crossing borders, which is not the case. Canada does have a huge problem with domestic trafficking. So it's a combination of both, where we are seeing people like, for instance, with last year, we saw the Hungarian case where Hungarians were being brought into Ontario and being exploited out for construction. But we also have many cases as well where it's domestic trafficking for forced labor and for sexual exploitation, so our own Canadian citizens.
Well, I know that Executive Committee approved a recommendation that was put forward by Councillor Minnan-Wong that the city not advertise in publications that are used to market trafficked persons. I found just that startling because is it so out in the open that we know which publications are running the ads for these people?
Right. It is shocking. And again, when you don't understand what you're looking at, you just look the other way. Or if you don't like what you're seeing, we're taught to just, again, dismiss it and look the other way. So when you open up, unfortunately, a publication like Now Magazine, which they've been pegged. Like, this whole motion that's been put forward has put their name on it, but they're not the only publication. So I'll say that to your listeners this morning. It's not just Now Magazine. There are many other publications, and that's what we're wanting to raise the awareness to Executive Committee that this needs to be addressed, because the advertisements that are being that you are seeing are actually aiding and facilitating situations of human trafficking. And when we look at even just Craigslist, for instance, that happened in the United States last year, that's a $36 million annual revenue that they were receiving just on the adult services alone that helped to facilitate human trafficking. So we're paralleling certain similarities to executive committee and looking at what other countries, what other cities have done and how we can learn from that.
And will you go back with demands? Was this more of a sort of an information presenting situation yesterday?
I would like to say I'm going to go back with demands. You know, working with government, you got to, it's all political. So you got to take one step at a time. And so we've put forward 3 great recommendations that sounds like that they're going to be willing to work with. And then we'll take it from there.
Can you quickly tell me what they are?
Yes, the 3 recommendations are going to be the data collection, working collaboration, and then also education.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.